Hey there, and welcome to the userexperience.org podcast, where I chat with the people creating the products that shape the world. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. With us today, we have Smit and Clark. I'll briefly introduce them, and then I'll ask them to introduce themselves as well. Well, Smit and we met each other at Northeastern during the Research Design Week, where Smit was giving a talk on designing voice interfaces specifically for elderly people. And Clark and we met at the User Interface Design course at Umass Boston, where coincidentally we're now also doing a hackathon and building a voice interface for elderly people, which is why I connected us. And I am happy to have you guys here. So maybe, Smit, could you just briefly introduce yourself, and then I'll ask Clark to do the same.
Yeah, so my name is Smit Desai, and I am an incoming assistant professor at Northeastern University associated with CAMD and Curry College of Computer Science. And my research is in conversational interfaces. So conversational interfaces would include voice interfaces like Amazon Alexa or Siri, as well as chatbots and large language model based chatbots as well. So I'm most interested in understanding the mental models of people when they're interacting with these conversational interfaces and just understand the evolution of it. So how do they think about it when they interact with the conversation interface for the first time, and how does that evolve with time as well as experiences? And I'm also interested in creating conversational interfaces, especially for older adults. So I have created voice interfaces in the role of teachers, storytellers, exercise instructors, etc. And I believe in accessibility first design. So that means that if a solution works for people who are generally marginalized in the design process, then it can work for anyone. And finally, I'm very much interested in refining the design methods that we use to create these interfaces as well. So right now we focus a lot on user experience for graphical user interfaces, but we don't really know what exactly user experience for conversational interfaces look like. And I believe that a lot of the methods that we use to assess the usability of conversational interfaces are inspired by graphical interfaces. And I think that's a big injustice because these two interfaces are very different, and they should have different testing or evaluation methods. So that is the wrong that I'm trying to right with my research as well.
Wow, that's really cool. We'll definitely dive into those things. I'd quickly like to give the floor to Clark to also briefly introduce himself and what he's into.
Yeah, I'll keep mine quick. My name is Clark Ohlenbusch. I'm an undergrad at UMB. I'm currently working as a solutions engineer intern at Savient, and I'm just super interested in kind of bridging the gaps between AI and a secure system, and keeping everybody like able to communicate with the systems and keeping it all user friendly. So I'm here just to really understand as much as I can, broaden my knowledge, and listen to some smart people talk.
Cool. So yeah, my first question, just to like build upon and dive to what Smit was saying. So I think the main injustice or the main wrong that you're trying to solve right now is the fact that you mentioned that the way we're approaching interface design right now for voice is kind of based upon the paradigm of the graphical user interface. And I think you're saying that that's just fundamentally different nowadays with voice. So yeah, could you touch upon that a little bit more and kind of explain what you mean with that?
Yeah, so I think let's just take voice interfaces as an example. So graphical interfaces and voice interfaces are very different as modality. So with graphical interfaces, you can look at your browser, right? And a lot of information comes at you simultaneously. So you can look at images, you can look at text, you can look at links all at the same time. But when you're interacting with a voice interface, the information comes to you word by word. So it's one word followed by another word, and then another word. So the information comes at you sequentially. So that is a big fundamental difference. Another difference is that it's very easy to navigate with graphical user interfaces. You can go back, you can go forward quite easily, and also you have a very good mental model of what navigation looks like. However, with voice interfaces, it's very difficult to go back and forth with the same flexibility. So I think that is also very fundamentally different. And finally, the way we think about these interfaces are very, very different. So, for example, when you are trying to do something with your podcast recording software and something does not really work, how do you feel? So, usually you feel frustrated, right? You don't feel very good about this experience. However, in my experience, when I have conducted usability testing with voice interfaces, people don't really feel the same frustration. So I was conducting a usability test with a international student, and the international student was trying to play the song "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles. So they told what the voice interface that Alexa, play "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles, and Alexa said, "Sorry, I don't understand." And the student goes louder that Alexa, play "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles, and Alexa again said, "Sorry, I don't understand." Then she goes closer to the device and says, "Alexa, play "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles." And Alexa says, "Sorry, I don't understand." So I was in this testing room and I thought that this interaction was going to be very frustrating for the user. And vicariously, I was feeling very frustrated for her as well, because she was saying it perfectly. She was not saying it wrong, but Alexa just would not understand her. So, to my surprise, instead of getting frustrated, the user started laughing and said that, "Oh, it's like a silly child, so it's difficult to get angry with this device." So, an experience which was supposed to be very frustrating for her was interpreted as just Alexa being silly. So, they anthropomorphized Alexa in such a way that even a frustrating experience was not frustrating for them. So, for them, the usability of Alexa was about the emotional experience that it ignited in them. So that is the most fundamental difference, that the bonds that we build with our conversational interfaces is very different from the kind of bonds that we build with your laptop.
Yeah. Just to push back a little bit, like in my experience, sometimes I did really get frustrated with these things, and I'm wondering, um, do you think it's possible that it was just because you were in the room with her and she tried to like keep her calm, or is it something you've really noticed a difference that even if you're in a room with someone and they're using a computer graphical interface, that they do get frustrated, whereas with voice they don't? Like, my question is like, to what extent do you think this really matches like the real world instead of like the lab results?
Yeah, so I think obviously there are personal differences as well. Like I get frustrated when I'm using Alexa as well. So it's not like people don't get frustrated when they're using Alexa, but
Mhm.
there are people who build closer bonds with these devices, and also they tend to anthropomorphize more. And this has been a historical trend as well. So Weizenbaum, he was a scientist, I think, in the 60s, and he created the first chatbot called Eliza. And he creates this chatbot Eliza, and he shows it to his secretary. And the secretary is amazed. This is in the 60s, that she's able to talk with the machine, she's able to chat with the machine. But then suddenly a thought occurs to her that there is someone trapped in the machine. So she tells Joseph Weizenbaum to leave the room so that she can have a personal conversation with Eliza and make sure that she is not trapped in the machine. So people have been, personifying these devices for a long time, and that is a trend that is not going away. Just look at the pronouns that people use for Alexa as well. People often say Alexa is a she; they don't call it an it. So even the pronouns that they use for Alexa is very defined, and it means something. Like it means something for the mental models and how we understand these devices as opposed to traditional laptop interfaces.
Mhm. Nice. Go ahead, Clark. Oh, you're.
I got it. Sorry about that. I wanted to ask, do you think that should be a goal when creating a user voice interface? Should be being able to have someone like humanize who like what they're talking to?
Yeah, so I think you have touched on a very sensitive topic in the conversation design or conversation research community. So there are a group of researchers who believe that the ultimate goal of human machine interaction is for it to be like human human interaction. And then there are other group of researchers, including me, who believe that human machine interaction is fundamentally different from human human interaction. So instead of replicating the human human interaction model, we should be able to come up with our own paradigm and define what human machine interaction is, and how we can improve that instead of replacing it with human human communication model. So I think the answer is very tricky, and there are people working on both kinds of ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, so you mentioned that maybe there's maybe several different camps of thought about this paradigm of how people of how they interact, and you guys aren't just like philosophizing about this in an armchair. You're actually like conducting research. So I'm kind of wondering, to what extent have your views changed based on your research, or like, how what insights have you come to that you didn't expect coming into this?
Yeah, so I think you are right. With research, my mindset has definitely changed about this quite significantly. So when I started my PhD, so that was back in 2016, I thought that this behavior of people anthropomorphizing or you personifying voice interfaces was bad. However, the more I talked with users and the more they interacted with my technology, I started realizing that anthropomorphizing these technologies are just necessary. Like that is how people familiarize themselves with this technology, and also that is how they are able to build mental models about them. And also they have nuance. So it's not like even older adults, when they interact with these technologies, even if they call it a he or a she, they know it's a machine. They know that there is no ghost in the shell. So they do have that nuance in them. So then my focus started shifting on what kinds of anthropomorphizing behavior are good and what are more problematic. For example, let's talk about large language models. If they use the pronoun I, if they say, I am a model or whatever, I am doing this, I can help you with this, the word I, it might not be very problematic. But if your large language model says that I can empathize with you, I can understand where you're coming from, that act of empathizing or the act of trying to understand what the mental model of the user is, that might be more problematic, because it might signify that the voice interface or the LLM has more agency than it actually has, because these technologies don't really understand how you work. They're not able to find a
So
middle ground.
So that's also a very philosophical question about like what's actually going on, and are they conscious and stuff like that. Also, in light of the movie Her, which I think you might be familiar with, and my question here is kind of like, does it even matter what it feels or what's actually going on if from the outside we perceive it as being conscious and being capable of empathy? Does it really matter what's in there?
I don't think it matters what's in them, but I think it's a design choice. Uh, Creating the illusion that these things have agency and they are able to make their own decisions is a design choice, and it's an illusion that designers have created for the users. And I think that is where the problematic part is. So definitely they don't have a subconscious mind and they are not able to have their own opinions. It's basically they are populist. They are like any populist politician who is just going to go where the general trend of the public lies. So that is what they are. So I don't think it matters for the technology itself, but I think it matters in the sense that how they influence user behavior, because now people are going to form very close bonds with these devices, like in the movie Her. uh, so we don't to be in that situation where people are starting to trust these devices to such an extent that they share their personal information with them, they share their health information with them, financial information with them, because it's not the technology itself that is having access to this information. It's actually Amazon that is owning the technology, it's Apple that is owning the technology, and the information is going to them. And now think about how comfortable do you feel with someone like Mark Zuckerberg or like Elon Musk having access to that technology. Now, the chances are very high that they don't even care about you, that you don't even matter to them, and your information, nothing is ever going to happen with it. But do you want to take that risk, and are you comfortable with them having access to this technology as opposed to this innocent looking tube like a box that is presented to you?
Yeah.
I wanted to build off that actually. So you said that like the one of the issues here is that if you humanize these AIs almost too much, people trust them too much, and now your information's at risk. Is that Do you think that issue is mainly a security issue of where the information is being stored and who has access to it? Or is this like a deeper issue of in general humans shouldn't trust technology like AI as much as they trust another human?
Yeah, I think again, I believe that it's obviously a security issue, but it's also more of choice issue and it's an awareness issue as well. So if these technologies are really honest with the user and say that this is the kind of data I'm collecting and your data is going to be used for this purpose, and if the user is still consenting to it, then I think it's fine. Like the user knows what the risks are and the user is comfortable with that risk. But right now, the technology is not very honest about the kind of data it is collecting. For example, we don't know how OpenAI trained GPT. We have lots of theories that they mined the entire internet in order to train their models, but no one is owning up to it. Similarly, like the chats that we have with OpenAI models, they say that they are not training their models on that chat, but something's happening to it. It's going somewhere. So I think as long as we have a good idea of how the information is being used, I think it's fine. And this is our own bubble, right? Like we are in CS, and we understand that the systems we are talking to is just data structure. They are just built on data structures. So we are able to separate the algorithm from the system. However, for a lot of people, it's very difficult to separate the algorithm from the system because they don't know what an algorithm looks like. For example, older adults. So one older adult participant in one of my studies talked with Alexa, and she started crying, saying that the voice reminds her of her granddaughter. And she loves talking with this device because it just brings memories of her granddaughter. Now, that's such a problematic use case. It's very powerful, but it's very problematic because now, just because of the voice itself, she's going to trust this device a lot more than she is supposed to. And she might share lots of information with it. So I think it just presents a lot of very dystopian Black Mirror like scenarios. And especially with large language models, they just feel so natural, right? Alexa, I think its limitations were very obvious. You could not have a long conversation with it, but with large language model based voice interfaces, I can have a 20-30 minute conversation with it without it being a big problem. So I think we are really getting close to her being realistic in terms of the first part.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we can dive into for hours. I mean, these are very important topics. I do realize that we are running out of time, and I do want to wrap it up a little bit. Is there any maybe last final things that you would like to talk about or like to share?
In terms of what exactly do you want me to talk about?
Or maybe, or just any like last like food for thought or thought provoking things you'd kind of like to put out there before we round it up.
Yeah, I think just going back to our conversation about whether machines should talk to us like humans, or should we use the human-human communication model. I think that is something that I feel is a very powerful concept, and that is something that we should all think about deeply, whether we want our machines to talk to us like we talk to other humans, or whether we want a distinction between human-human model and human-machine communication model. Because I think that as the boundaries between humans and machines blur, we need to be very conscious about how we educate the future generation and also how we market these things, and just make sure that we are able to talk about this distinction in a very clear way. So I think just everyone have a think about the kinds of information that you're sharing with these devices. Just think about the role that it plays in your life. If you find yourself talking to your chat GPT like it's your therapist, maybe have a deeper thought about uh, why is that behavior, where is it coming from. So just it's a great time for introspection and see the way that you are behaving with technology and what does it mean for you personally, and what you can do about it.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how our relationship with technology changes as it gets more advanced and as society also adapts to it. Yeah, just for time's sake, I think this would be a good place to round it off. I'd like to thank you, Smit and Clark, for being on. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up this episode. I hope you liked it. If you did, please leave a review and share the podcast. I'd love to hear what you thought. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest, send an email to podcast@userexperience.org. And for more resources, make sure to check out userexperience.org.